Okay, I think I fixed the sound. I'm pretty sure the sound is fixed now. So I apologize for that. Wanted to, basically, long story short, I think you can hear me now. Hopefully, we can hear me. Great. Long story short, basically in the newsroom, in the studio, they were working on some things. We had some equipment we wanted to get kind of fixed up and doctored up to prepare for tonight. And I had to relocate to our weather office here, which is why you see me kind of things set up a little bit different. But I still felt it was important to jump on here and chat. And man, running in there made me run out of breath. And so we are able to hear, which is some good news. So folks are checking on it. Thanks so much for rolling with that. Just, I think, sometimes that happens, and relocating to make sure you guys get the info, and we've got things going on too. And things are good. So squared it away for you here. Let's just jump through and start talking about things and what we're seeing here across the region. That's a look at satellite right now, as you see on the left, the main part of the screen here. And we're already seeing some of those initial showers and thunderstorms try to form. That is occurring in Missouri and Iowa and Nebraska and Kansas there. That is not the main event for us here. I do not expect any issues from that. And I don't think that's going to be where the storms form for us here. They may kind of redevelop or hang out a bit, but that's something that we'll keep an eye on, and we'll see how things go with that. But going to watch all of this really closely here as we move on forth. We'll have to see things pick up pretty quickly as we move on through. And of course, as I'm attempting to do this, now I am not able to get onto the computer for some reason. Always something around here, isn't it? That's probably because this is what I've got. I want to switch the graphics here. And there we go. Now I'm able to do that. So let's go talk about that forecast for today. It's fine out there today. There is no severe weather risk during the daytime. We're finally rolling, folks. Thanks so much for rolling with the punches there. Some of us are going to hit those low 80s out there. It is really warm in our region. The good news is the severe weather threat is after dinner tonight. And for some of us, even later than that. So you can still do things and go about your business. However, the wind picks up as we go into the afternoon, and that is a concern for us here as wind gusts this afternoon, 40 to 50 miles an hour on the table. You think about how dry we've been, how much we need the rain. That wind is going to cause blowing dust as a possibility. Also, the potential for fire danger to be an issue here. And so that's something that we're going to watch really closely as we move on forth. For the most part, I do think that we will avoid major issues with that today. That might be a bigger issue tomorrow, but I just cannot rule out that we have an issue with things as we move on through into tomorrow. So either today or tomorrow, there could be some issues out there. We'll see how that shakes out, but you're already feeling that wind. And when we talk about dust, I don't think it's a widespread issue. There probably may be a pocket here or there, a little zone where some fields are just positioned right. There's enough silt. They've been plowed over. The wind picks up some of that dust. So it's gonna be windy. That's a given. The fire danger probably also has the chance to be more area-wide, but sporadic. It's not like everywhere is burning and things of that. That's something that's to watch, but the risk is there for that. And those fires can be started by improperly discarded cigarette butt. There can be, like this morning, there was a fire down south of Champaign-Urbana, and they were concerned about embers from that this afternoon. It can be a chain dragging behind a truck. It can be power lines arcing. It can be a number of things. And sometimes things just kind of combust as well. And so that's a concern where we just have to monitor that as we move on through. So there's the temperature for today, 79. Dust and fire danger is there. It's a concern for us here. Tonight is when that severe weather risk is in our area, and we'll have to watch closely here. Kind of going to that 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. window for central Illinois. Really strong low pressure system winding up. And it'll affect a large swath of real estate. Iowa, Illinois, parts of Missouri, down the Mississippi River, all the way down to Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana today, tonight, into tomorrow. Here's our risk for severe weather. We're at a level 4 moderate risk. That is for everywhere here. We're going to focus on that severe weather threat now. All of us essentially are in it. Now, I know somebody is probably watching and sees the orange by Hoopston or by Watseka or just north of Pontiac up by Dwight. Maybe they're watching in Benton County, Indiana. I'm only in the level 3. Level 3 still is a big deal here. Want to just say that we are going to have issues no matter what with these storms coming on through. And I think the appropriate thing to do is not focus on the number or the color or the wording. I think the thing to focus on is those impacts. Here's what we expect for our WCIA3 viewing area. First off, the chances there for wind to be the main threat. That's our big concern here. I know tornadoes get a lot of the attention. It's the wind threat that more or all of us will have to deal with as these storms move on through. There is a ton of wind energy aloft, and that wind energy aloft really can mix down to the surface, cause some problems here. Wind gust of 75 plus on the table. We could have some gusts reported in the 80s. That would not surprise me. I don't know if those 75, 80 gusts will be everywhere, but even if you get a 70 mile per hour gust, at a certain point, it's going to cause damage, right? We can have damage after 60 miles an hour. And so the concern is there for trees and power lines, regardless of tornado activity, to have some issues. And, you know, if there's a weakened structure or an outbuilding, you could have some minor structural damage with winds like that. A lot of folks have been tossing around the word derecho here. I'll describe the word derecho like I would tornadoes. We know there's going to be wind, right? The problem with the derecho is that it is classified after the windstorm moves through. It has to meet certain criteria. And on top of that, everyone thinks back to last summer when we had 80 to 100 mile an hour winds sweep through the area. Could there be some strong winds like that? Absolutely. But I think that word turns scary because that summer derecho we had 2 years ago was top of the line. I mean, that was the cream of the crop for derecho events here. This one could make that criteria, but I don't think that's something that is helpful to talk about and to throw around. I think it's a hypey fear term. When you get winds of 75, 80 mile an hour, you're going to have problems, right? And so that's a concern for us where things move on through. Let's talk about that tornado risk. It's the next threat there, and it will be higher in certain areas. It will be conditional, but it is something we cannot discount. We think that there will be at least a couple of tornadoes in our area, and depending on how things play out, we could deal with several of them, and we may have to look out for a strong tornado or two, given the favorable dynamics in the upper atmosphere. Hail threat is lower. There still could be some large hail. I think that's pretty isolated. We might get a few reports of golf ball, maybe a report in our area up to tennis ball. I think that better chance is down towards the St. Louis metro. And flooding, not too much of a concern with this. These storms are moving quick. You know, they'll be in and out in 15, 30 minutes. And that doesn't give it a lot of time to leave, some rain in the area. Could be some heavy rain, yes. You could get a quick quarter, half inch, but it's not going to cause flooding. So that is something to note. Let's talk more about those wind gusts here. Again, pretty much the entire area we're outlining in those greater than 75 mile per hour wind gusts, some greater than 80 gusts are on the table for us here. You'll notice, though, those 70 mile per hour gusts are still possible into western Indiana. That's a fine line, right? Do you really know the difference between 70 and 75 mile an hour? Not really. Still going to cause some issues out there. I will say this, not everyone gets those winds. I think there's clusters and complexes here and there, and that's going to allow for these little swaths of wind through the area. A lot of us probably get 50 to 60, even outside of thunderstorms. The starting line is pretty high up for those winds here. You know, if you think of a summer day when storms come through, we don't have a lot of wind. It's sticky and muggy. We got to go from 0 to 60 really quick, right? The starting line in this event is wind gusts are already 40 to 55 mile an hour before storms get there. Doesn't take much more for the wind to be added on to that there. Look at that wind energy aloft here coming right overhead into tonight. That's going to allow for some pretty impressive dynamics there. Going to allow for that wind to mix to the surface with these thunderstorms. Really a favorable upper level pattern for severe weather and a severe weather outbreak in our area, which we're expecting here at this point. This is where we kind of have some questions. How much fuel are we going to get at the surface? How much instability will there be? When we talk about instability, that's surface-based. The jet stream is upper-level atmosphere-based. And those two things can tango together sometimes and give us some issues. A lot of times, think of those summer events. When we have lots of instability, we just need to figure out if we're going to get a spark. And we don't always know if we're going to get that. This is kind of the opposite. Instead of a spark, we already have a blowtorch running. We just need to know how much fuel is actually going to end up in our area here. And you'll notice as we move on through, some of that greater instability is from St. Louis south, I-70 south here. Could some of it creep a little further north ahead of that line? That may creep into our area. How far north is the big question with this, but it's on the table where if we get a little more instability, I think that may increase that tornado risk moving on forth, and so that's what we're going to watch. Let's talk about that tornado risk then here. We're at a 6 out of 10 in orange. south of Jacksonville, towards Litchfield, towards Vandalia, points to the south and west into the St. Louis metro. It's an 8 out of 10. They have a much greater chance down there than many of us do, but we're still in a pretty high risk around here for tornadoes. Let me rephrase that, not a high risk. Our risk is pretty great for tornadoes, just to make sure my terminology is clear. When we look at the risks like this, we tend to get 1 or 2 of these a year, I think, where we get the 6, 7s in our region. Some years we get more, some years we get less. This isn't the worst case scenario. It's not a cakewalk either, though, where yes, we may see some embedded circulations in the line, and so there is a risk for tornadoes. I would say this, a lot more of us going to deal with strong straight line winds and those gusts of 75 plus compared to a tornado risk. However, if you find yourself ahead of a rotating storm within that line or an individual storm, then that tornado risk is going up for you. And we just don't know exactly what that looks like until storms are moving in and forming. And that's when we're doing severe weather coverage, right? That's when we're really following things along here. So it's up there. It's not the highest it's ever been. It's not the lowest that it's ever been either. We have had days with 5, 6s, and 7s, and we've only had a tornado or 2. We've had days with 1s, 2s, and 3s in the tornado risk, and we've had several of them out there. I can think of a few in the back of my mind where the risk was pretty low, but you know, things came together and for the forecast, and we overperformed, and we've had some higher ones that they've underperformed. This risk level is relative to what we generally see around here. And so the concern is there, the risk is there that we could see some tornadoes. There's a risk in a lot of things we do in life, right? There's a risk for driving a car. There's a risk for, having a cooking in the kitchen, and, different factors play into that. So this is our best assessment of the situation for us here moving forth. This is what I'm really going to watch. We're going to watch our dew point values really closely here. And if you want to, on your WCIA3 weather app, when you open the app up, you'll see the current temperature. Beneath that, it'll say dew point. As those storms are approaching, there may be a narrow ribbon of dew point values that are over 60 degrees ahead of that. And that narrow ribbon may be enough to allow for that tornado threat to come up. The reason I think that moisture is important here is that moisture is the source of our instability here. We just need to get some humid air in front for those storms to chomp on. And if they get that, that helps them to increase the tornado potential. If it doesn't happen, I think the wind is still going to be a problem for us here, but we're just going to watch. So if you start to see, 9, 10, 11 p.m., hey, my dew point's at 59, 60, it might be something to kind of watch and keep an eye on here. If our dew points stay in the mid-50s, then that's a good sign, at least for the tornado risk. Dew points could be 40, 50, 60, 80, and we would have wind regardless in this situation. But that's one of the things that I am in particular looking for as we move on through. Let's time this out in future track for you here and show you what we're looking at. First off, again, 8, 9 o'clock, storms are in western Illinois. They're working their way to the east here, and as they come on in then, you'll see this particular run of future track shows by 9 to 10, it's passing through Jacksonville, moving into Sangamon County, moving into I-55, the corridor between Lincoln and Litchfield there. Here we go, 11 p.m., racing through Springfield. It's now knocking on the door of Bloomington Normal, Decatur, Clinton. Taylorville's getting storms at this point. It'll be heading towards Shelbyville, Vandalia. Moving past that by 11:30 to 12. Now it's knocking on the door for I-57 here, moving on through. It's a pretty solid line that's moving in our direction. And that pretty solid line, we're not necessarily looking at individual supercells producing tornadoes across the entire area. But within that line, you kind of see that there's some little kinks and some little, spots that may kind of break apart here. And that is where we'd have to kind of keep our eyes on things, is what I'm looking at. So kind of assessing here, you kind of look in the line. Well, here we go. There's a little kink there, right? Kind of popping out, and another little kink there. Just kind of watching all of that to see how things play out, where you get those little circulations in that line. And that can be an issue for things moving on forth. And that's where that tornado potential may materialize. There's a chance, if those dew points do get more into the low 60s, we could see maybe a few storms break away from the line, become more isolated. That's when we really have issues, if that's the case. Still uncertainty if that happens. I think it's more of a mixed mode, a line of storms with embedded supercells. That can be problematic enough for us as we move on through. We'll continue that path forward after midnight now, crossing into our West Indiana counties along the Indiana state line, Vermilion, Edgar County, Iroquois County and moving into West Indiana, and moves out pretty quickly here. We're done by 2-3 a.m. with that severe weather risk for our area. Here's another graphic that kind of shows that timing for you here. 8 to 11, looking at Morgan, Cass counties, Jacksonville, Beardstown, Virginia, places like that. 9 p.m. to 12 a.m., Springfield, Lincoln, Taylorville, heading into the west side of Bloomington and Decatur. That's our window of opportunity. We get to 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., we're in that teal color. That's Bloomington, Decatur east, including the entire I-57 corridor. And then after that, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., looking in West Indiana, is where that line of storms move on through. So if you pick 3 hours to really pay attention, these are the 3 hours that I think will be the most key. It's not going to storm all 3 hours, but that's the most likely time when storms will arrive and impact your area as we move into tonight. And so that's something that we'll keep an eye on. I'm going to come back to the severe weather risk in a second. While I have you, I want to mention we do have wind. A lot of you have already said in the comments, man, it's getting windy out there, right? Wind advisory through tomorrow evening. There is a high wind watch for Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois counties. That's for mainly Saturday's event. We're going to see wind gusts here ahead of this storm pretty high up there. Future Track's been showing those wind gusts here. Those storms aren't here yet at 9 o'clock. We're at 45 to 55 mile an hour gust in some spots. And as those storms come on through, notice here, Decatur at 11:30, before the storms get there, shows a 63 gust, 56 in Mattoon, 56 in Effingham. We consider thunderstorms to be severe at 58 mile an hour. So we're right up there at that severe weather criteria with non-thunderstorm wind gusts not associated with those storms. We'll keep going through the night after the storms exit them. 7 a.m., we're done with the severe weather risk. The wind really hasn't dropped all that much. It's still a south and west wind. Maybe it's down a little bit in the morning, but I think it picks right back up into the afternoon here. And Saturday, I'll back that up a little bit. We may have some wind gusts of 45 to 55 mile an hour again Saturday morning into the afternoon. In time, that wind does diminish, though. By Saturday evening, not as windy. Still a little blustery, and we'll have the wind still be out there as we go into Sunday, but the wind direction will change as our front finally comes on through, and that will be out of the north and west during the day on Sunday. Some problems with the wind. Fire weather forecast, it's high right now. Low humidity out there, really windy. We got dry vegetation, right? There's a lot of dry, dormant grass. There's a lot of corn stubble, bean debris kind of out in those fields. Some farmers have been plowing fields over. You do that, that keeps the fire weather for that particular field a little lower. Some farmers doing no-till, there's just dry crop there, right? And if a fire hits those fields, it can spread really quickly. And this may be higher on Saturday than it is today. It will depend a little bit on how much rain we can actually get tonight. I don't think we get a lot. Those storms are moving so quick, but maybe they put down enough to tamper that down a little bit. While that's the case, blowing dust potential on fields that are tilled over picks up then. So pick your poison, right? Do you want the dust or do you want the fire risk? So we may see some winds this afternoon, pick up some of that dust and start blowing it and have some blowing dust here across the region. That's a 7-day forecast. I'll show that briefly. Sunday, things are clearing. It is cooler. Monday, sunny, windy a little bit. Not terrible. Probably the nicest day of the week because that wind does pick up with another system coming Wednesday, Thursday with some showers, likely with that system coming our way. Recapping here. Impact-wise, this is a wind event for us tonight, expecting strong straight-line winds. We can have and probably will have some embedded circulations with tornado potential. And so that is something to consider here as we move on forth, staying safe, being aware during that time. Have you heard of WeatherCall? I'm going to talk a little bit about some safety tips here. First off, if you want to get a phone call during severe weather, a tornado warning is issued for your location. And you think a phone call would wake me up when I'm sleeping. Some of you might go to bed tonight and hope you wake up, right? WeatherCall will do that. We will call you when a warning is issued for your home location, a fixed address. It can be for you. You can sign up a relative who maybe doesn't have reliable internet access, who perhaps is elderly and uses phones more than texting. You can sign up your kids in college, wherever they may be, as an option. And it's a small fee. It's pennies a day. I think it's $15 a year is all. You would drop $40 on a NOAA weather radio. There's a small fee associated just to maintain that equipment so we can keep phone calls going out. And we've had some success stories with it where WeatherCall has been there for people to get severe weather alerts, and that's been one of the ways that they get that. We encourage you to have more than one. We want 2 or more ways to get severe weather information. Wireless emergency alerts on your cell phone. You can do the WCIA3 weather app. You can watch us on TV. You can sign up for WeatherCall. There are a number of ways that you can do that here to stay safe. If you want more information on that, go to our website, WCIA.com. You can click on the weather drop-down menu, and you'll see WeatherCall is an option there. Looking at some of those reliable ways to get alerts here, don't rely on outdoor warning sirens. One thing about outdoor warning sirens is we need to think of those less as tornado sirens and more as get information sirens. Something is wrong. The reason for that is we actually will have sirens go off if severe thunderstorm warnings are issued for winds with 80 mile per hour or higher. That happened once last summer in Champaign County. I think some people lost their marbles. 80 mile an hour winds, though, will do the same damage as a weak tornado. And so that is something to consider with that here. The other thing is that not everywhere has the same policy for sirens. Some counties only do tornado warnings. Some counties will sound them if there is a funnel cloud out there that's spotted. Some towns will do if the fire department needs called. They'll sound the sirens. Some towns will sound the sirens every day at noon or every night at 8 p.m. You know, there's different policies, and that's not a very reliable way. Count on there's other ways to get weather information. Also, I'll make a note about X and Facebook. Don't count on that to get updates immediately, but once you get an alert, you can go to Facebook and stream our coverage just like you are right now from your safe spot. Same thing with X. We're on YouTube. The WCIA3 news and weather apps, we stream on that. You can go to our homepage at the computer. You can turn the volume up on your TV. Those are all options for you to stay connected and stay informed when things happen. Think about how many of those ways you have. If you've got at least two, then I think you're going to be good here for that. The last thing is, let me see if I think I want to show this here. This is wireless emergency alerts. You might get that blaring sound in your phone. It's like the brr, brr, brr sound. You get them for a number of things here. We do now get them for severe thunderstorm warnings. That came in July 2021. It has to be 80 mile per hour winds or greater. That can happen. And we also had it a few times where dust storm warnings have gotten that. Could that happen today in some isolated areas? Not out of the question. The thing to note about wireless emergency alerts, though, is that is not unique to your location. It's unique to the location your cell phone is connected to the tower at. So if you're in Sydney and the cell phone tower for your company is over in Broadlands, if Broadlands is under a tornado warning, you're going to get that wireless emergency alert. WeatherCall is your fixed address. If you're on the, and I know there's a viewer who has this happen. They live on the Champaign-Douglas County line. They signed up for WeatherCall. They were like, well, there's Champaign County's got a severe thunderstorm warning. Why didn't I get a call? Because they live on the Douglas County side of the road. It is that specific. If you're 5 feet out of it, you will not get that alert. And so that is something to think about here. Let's think about some tornado safety places to go. I saw a question pop up. First off, cars, never a great place to be. Mobile homes, not a great place to be. And this even for strong winds like what may be coming our way. Even large open rooms, Sometimes people like to do their grocery shopping or go to Walmart, wherever, Meijer, whatever stores there are late at night. If you think of those rooms that have large open span ceilings, those can have some problems when a tornado or strong winds hit. And then occasionally they can collapse. If you find yourself in a place like that, you don't want to be in the middle of that. You'd rather be in the bathroom area in the back or the front of the store that's got more reinforcements and pipes in there. But just avoid those if you can. This is overnight. A lot of places are closed down. Great place, interior room, an interior bathroom, a crawl space, a tornado shelter, a basement, something of that. And you can pack some supplies in there, throw some snacks in there. I tell you what, if it makes you feel better, have a glass of wine down there. Bring a bottle of wine, right? I tell people that to relax and keep up to date. I say that in a jokingly lighthearted way, but having something there that you can go to and have a snack and some water and you can kind of follow the coverage and things of that is something that can be helpful in these situations. Who doesn't love a good snack, right? And maybe a little glass of wine can calm the nerves, or you can have a Coca-Cola, a Pepsi, whatever the case may be. And so that is what we're looking at here. I will mention too, if you're in a manufactured home, that is another place that's not a place to be. There may be some folks thinking, well, I can get into a crawl space there. Manufactured homes are not much different than mobile homes here. They kind of fix it on top of a foundation and move it in. and that can still blow away here. If you've got a sturdy shelter, that's where you want to be. If you're in an apartment complex, a lot of viewers live in apartments. That's a great place to be for 99 days out of the year, 99% of the time in a year. Tonight's a night where maybe make friends with your neighbors downstairs, or figure out if there's an interior hallway, if there's a place like that is on the first floor that has plenty of walls and apartments around it there. Most center part of that is the best place to go in those types of scenarios. You can make friends with your neighbors downstairs. You can bring snacks, that bottle of wine, something of that, and say, hey, I'm coming over. I'm going to bring some snacks. Can I ride it out in your apartment? That's totally an option. If you happen to be in a place and you're like, man, I don't have a good shelter and I'm a little ways away. If you got a friend with a sturdier shelter, go say, hey, I'm coming over at 8. We're going to watch Jacob Dickey drive around in the severe weather, and Kevin and Seth are going to be on TV with Adam talking about where it is. Let's have some snacks, and then we can shelter when it's our turn. That's an option. You also can go to a convenience store, a gas station, someplace open 24 hours a day. They got walk-in coolers, right? They've got an inside structure. That's probably a better option than a mobile home, a manufactured home. And if you're driving, things like that as well. We do plan to have some, I believe our radio station partners may be a part of this here. I'll have to double check my email where if we're on the air, we may be able to be simulcasted over some radio stations and things like that. So that's kind of what we're looking at for this. That is about all I have. I've been seeing some questions. And I'm going to kind of scroll back through. I got to get ready to get out on the storm tracker here as this wind and fire threat picks up. But then tonight I'll be out there doing the chasing for the field reporting as well, and keeping up to date. I don't know where I'm going yet. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Problem with an event like this is most everywhere is getting hit, and so with fast-moving storms, it might be just the Interstate 72 corridor. Going from Springfield to Champaign, I might drop south towards Mattoon, Charleston, Effingham. Those are probably the two options that are on the table here at this point, because they're going to be moving quick. They'll be moving at highway speeds with those storms coming on through. All right, let's scroll back to the top here and see if we've missed any questions. I see all of the, I can hear you now. Everything sounds good. Good. Okay. Paul's asking, is there to be a high wind warning? That is a possibility in Livingston, Fort Iroquois County. When you get a high wind warning, you've got numerous gusts over 60 in an event like that. We're right at the threshold in some areas. Will we make it? Tomorrow would be the day to do that. But, a high wind warning, wind advisory, it's going to be windy. That's the big thing with that. Sarah asking, is it safe for my daughter to go to Naperville overnight tonight? I actually posted something very interesting yesterday. Let me see if I can find it really quick here. Dr. Jeff Frame from the University of Illinois, he works with the Department of Atmospheric Sciences, and I know they just remarketed their branding. He posted a really good kind of thread on what to watch for, when to consider things. Because students from the University of Illinois, they're going to be leaving, right? And it's spring break here in Champaign on Friday, so a lot of folks heading home. I'll just read you his tweet that he's put on X, or his post on X. Rough travel guidance for students from the University of Illinois. If you're heading to Chicagoland, leave by 5 p.m. here in Champaign-Urbana in central Illinois. If you're going east, leave by 5 p.m. If you're heading to the Quad Cities or St. Louis, be there by 5 p.m. or delay your travel until Saturday, especially, I think, St. Louis. If you're going to Iowa, Missouri, and west, delay your travel until tomorrow. If you're heading to Florida, you got to get to Atlanta by midnight. And if you're heading to the Gulf Coast, that's a real problem because there's some pretty significant severe weather likely to our south as we head into tonight. Let me show you what that looks like here in the regional outlook, and you can kind of see what we're dealing with. So this is the risk for today. You can see moderate risk, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, down into Kentucky, Tennessee, northeast Arkansas, and into Mississippi. That enhanced risk goes all the way down through Mississippi and Alabama there. And then overnight tonight, a round of severe storms in Mississippi, Alabama develops, and that will cause problems. The risk for tomorrow at this point may actually be higher and there it is, a high risk for severe weather came out at midday here from Mississippi and Alabama, a likely regional tornado outbreak coming that way in Mississippi, Alabama, into Georgia and Tennessee, places like that. That's a 5 out of 5. They are going to have some big problems, I think, down there overnight tonight into tomorrow. It's an event that is reminiscent of some bigger tornado events down that way. So if you got folks heading to the Gulf Coast or Florida, that's the concern with what we've got going on is, hey, there's a big event tomorrow down in the deep south that there is some concern for there. Do we get a high risk here locally? I don't think so. I don't think it matters at this point either. I don't think it changes the messaging. Where are we at the 4? Are we at the 5? The impacts is the bigger driver for us here when we look at things for that. Kind of scrolling down. Yeah, again, the risk, some folks say, what about this town? What about this place? Pretty much anyone who watches WCIA, this is the impacts. You're looking at that. That's what you can expect for that there. Brittany was asking about the sirens. We kind of talked about that. Yeah, so some places can. Just consider sirens to be, if you hear them, some of you may not hear them. It's going to be so windy, you may not hear them. They're not reliable indoors, unless you live right next to them or down the block from them. But think of those as, hey, I got to get some more information. And at that point, you're probably going to tune in, and we'll be on the air for that. Will the wind die down after the line comes through? Maybe briefly, but it should pick back up. I don't think it's going to be happening where it just stops. I mean, it's going to be windy tonight into tomorrow. When will we see the most of the winds? Before the line goes through or during? You'll be pretty impressed with the winds, I think, before storms get there. I mean, it's going to pick up. And then that line will hit, and that's where that line is where we see the highest winds. But then on the backside, we may have some issues that develop as well with that. Your bike blow away? Yeah, I'd put it in the garage. You can tell your daughter Josie to stick that in the garage. You got stuff laying around in the yard. You got a trampoline. Tie that puppy down, right? Trash cans, move indoors. Anything that might blow, it's a great idea to just bring them inside into the garage that are out and about. Furniture, we got some furniture on my porch. I'm tying them down with the wind coming because of that potential. And so that's something that is just something to think about with what we got. Heather is asking about crawl spaces. Crawl spaces can be an okay place in certain situations. It's not optimal. Certain places have crawl spaces that are better than others. That's a pretty individual question. If you're able to get, if that crawl space is a manufactured home sitting on top of a foundation, you probably just don't want to be there in general. If it's a crawl space on a site-built structure, that probably is a little bit better, but not optimal. You might do better in an interior closet or bathroom in a situation like that. We talked about the apartment complex. Stephanie was asking about that. Make friends downstairs. Go to the clubhouse, perhaps. The bathroom's there. Something like that is probably a better option if you're on a second floor. Should I be scared if I don't have a basement? No, I don't think so. As long as you have a safe space and you're ready to go there, interior closet, interior hallway, interior bathroom, those are some options. Lowest part of your home, and you've got some blankets, pillows. If it's needed, then you want to head there as quick as you can because 99% of severe weather events in those spots, you're going to be just fine, right? It's not, you got to take action. Most of our injuries and worse happen when people don't take shelter on events like this. Megan was asking, you're putting your life on the line. Do I enjoy it? I mean, firefighters put their life on the line to go fight fires. Police officers put their life on the line. I don't think I'm quite that in that, if that makes sense. I would say when it comes to severe weather, I mean, this is what we've trained for. This is what we're doing. This is our World Series for baseball. This is our Super Bowl for football, if that makes sense. And so we just have to perform our best, and we'll keep safe, and we're trained. It's not just driving out to see what's going on with that. Carla asking, how many times will areas get hit? There will be one line of storms coming on through. Maybe a 30-mile wide line with some clusters within it, but once that sweeps through, we're done. Connie was asking, can I still depend on my NOAA weather radio? Yes, you can. You can. Your NOAA weather radio works. There is a tower issue at the Newton one. Let me see if I still have that graphic readily available. And I don't think I do. The NOAA weather radio in Newton in Jasper County, though, is down. So some folks in like Cumberland, Clark, Edgar, Effingham County, if you're on the Newton Tower, you need to switch to a different one. We've got a story on our website about that. So just be aware of that. Sarah is saying you'd be less concerned about traveling north overnight. She was asking about Naperville. As long as she leaves Champaign by 5 p.m., gets to Naperville, you'll be fine here. Storms aren't coming until late tonight overnight. So that's something to keep an eye on here. Underneath the basement stairs, Amy asked about that. Yep, that's where we went when I was kids. My parents cleared it out every time we had severe weather, and before I started going outside and looking, that's where they'd stick me, but sometimes I'd sneak out. And then once Dad and I'd go storm spotting for Gibson City. That is something to watch. Some folks ask about chicken coops. Yeah, if those things are tied down, great. At my parents' house, their chicken coops are under a tree. That is something to think about for that. Amy is asking what radio station. We partner with the Atlanta Radio Group, so that's like Mix 94.5, Wixie Classics, and things like that. So those are the radio stations. I don't know exactly which ones we're going to be on. I need to follow up with that. This is our first severe weather event since our partnership with them. Marcy was asking about, are they servicing? No, there's actually equipment failure. The antenna broke. Basically, old equipment, it happens, technology can break. That can be an issue. And so check out our website for more on that. Or you can go to the National Weather Service homepage and see that there. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up. I need to get off and get some stuff taken care of before I head out here this afternoon. With that, stay safe, stay informed. We'll keep you updated, and you'll hear